Welcome to Mondays with Vish. I'm Grant. That's Vish. Niners played yesterday. I flew back today. Kyle Shanahan just spoke on a conference call and broke some news. Jason Verrett out for the year. Raheem Mostert out at least the next 8 weeks, going on IR. Cartilage issue in his knee, having a knee scope. Let's start right there. Obviously, they have a lot of running backs, but Raheem Mostert, there's something special about him. How do you think this? What's the impact here? What's the fallout?
Yeah, so the first time I ever did this show with you, week 2 after last year, the first topic we ever did was the Nick Bosa injury. And my response to that injury was the season's over.
Season's over.
The Super Bowl revenge season, none of that's happening without Nick Bosa on the field.
Yeah.
I don't feel the same way about the Raheem Mostert injury. Do I think it's impactful? Yes, and I'm going to talk about why I think they will miss Raheem Mostert. He's a really, really good player very soon. But I do think that they have enough running backs, they have enough depth, and they have a good enough run game in general where they should be able to be a very, very good offense. And I don't think Raheem Mostert is the player that makes or breaks their Super Bowl aspirations or whatever the ceiling of this team is. Do I think it's impactful? Yes, and I think it's impactful in a different way. I do think they're going to have to find a different way to bring an explosive element to their offense. And I think they might need to incorporate it through a different method. But Mostert was the one guy on this offense that could be you have the ball in your own 10-yard line and he can take it 90 to the house. And Kyle Shanahan has coveted that kind of speed, whether it's at running back or receiver, somewhere in his offense at times and utilized it. In Washington, it was Aldrick Robinson, who he brought back with the 49ers. The first year they signed Marquise Goodwin to play that role. Travis Benjamin was that type. So they do need to find, to me, maybe Elijah Mitchell is that guy. Though I do think when you watch him and Mostert back to back, it's quite clear how much more explosive Mostert is, even though Elijah Mitchell is very explosive.
Mitchell reminds me a little bit more of Matt Breida.
I think that would be my comp too.
Matt Breida averaged 5 yards a carry.
Yeah, and I think he has the same body too. Yeah, super cut up 205, like super cut up 205.
Exactly. And runs very hard. May not have this as good a vision as Raheem Mostert. Mostert's ability to see the hole is uncanny. Yeah, he's great at that.
I think his ability to decelerate and reaccelerate is really what makes him special. If you notice Mostert, he's not this Le'Veon Bell patient running back where he just stops, but oftentimes he kind of lets the hole develops and then he explodes. And when he explodes, that's where he beats a linebacker because the linebacker wasn't able to feel that explosion, even though he saw the same hole.
His first 5 steps are almost kind of like 60%. Mostert. He's kind of cruising, and you think that's all he's got, and all of a sudden he goes to hyperspeed. Yeah.
But I think the one thing Mitchell did do better, like Breida used to do better, is I think he breaks more tackles and wins more collisions in the hole. Mostert doesn't really get into violent collisions in the hole and run through a linebacker or bounce off and have those,
Mitchell does,
if you want to say, those tough, hard yards.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't need to do that, but Mitchell did do a good job of that. But the overall point to me is I thought Hasty looked good when he played yesterday. I didn't even think Hasty would make this team, and a lot of that was supposed to be because of Wayne Gallman and pass protection. I mean, we're going to talk about that specific play a bit later, but I think the most underrated part about the Jimmy Garoppolo, Deebo Samuel 79-yard touchdown is JaMycal Hasty at 5'8", 185 pounds, got his nose dirty, and he picked up the blitz and took a blitzing linebacker. He got shoved over later in the play, but he got his nose in, and it was a really nice rep in pass protection and a really good blitz pickup. So I think overall they have all the elements where this isn't, something that's going to destroy their season or anything. But I do think he's a good enough player, and he makes enough of an impact with his speed, his vision, and just the fact that they can keep handing him the ball. And it's 8 yards, 9 yards, 8 yards, 9 yards, 8 yards, 9 yards, and they just go down the field like that where they will miss him.
Yeah, that's what I want to say about him before we say goodbye to him for a while is he makes the offense, it's so easy for them. Like, they don't need him. Mitchell's very good. They'll be okay without him. But, I mean, Mitchell, I don't know if he could do what Mostert did in the NFC Championship game. Like, Mostert just gives the Niners an element of their offense that when he's healthy, it's almost unfair. But you can't rely on him. He's not going to be there long term. He just happened to be a key member of the team that went to the Super Bowl. And they
Yep.
probably wouldn't have made it to the Super Bowl without him. So
Yeah.
can they make it to the Super Bowl without him this year? Maybe. But for whatever reason, he was a big part of them taking off. So was Debo, so was Nick Bosa, so was Fred Warner. But Mostert was one of the key 6 or 7 guys who stepped up that year.
And, this offense obviously has a lot of complexity, and there's been a lot added to it. But the bread and butter of this offense really is the outside zone run play.
Right.
And
That's
the guys that really make that play happen are the Trent Williams, McGlinchey,
Kittle.
the Kittles, right? They block it really well. It's probably it's their day one install, first run play they install. But Mostert is the best in the NFL at running outside zone. He's just really good at it. And that's what I think you mean. It's just that their bread and butter, they can always go back to in a bad situation. All right, let's run outside zone with Mostert. All right, we got 8 yards. Now we're in 2nd and 2.
Yeah. And it was a really easy 8 yards, and we needed it. Like he just makes offense so easy for them. And especially when you pair him and Debo Samuel together, it's just like any quarterback could play, I thought. But now they're not going to have Mostert for a while. They should have good backups. It'll be interesting to see Trey Sermon do his thing. He didn't get an opportunity. Steven says, let's talk about how stupid Kyle was for not subbing in Trey Lance to run 2 out of his 3 appearances. Let's talk about how the team got relaxed. Team did get relaxed.
Wait, what?
It was weird how the Niners almost – if they had lost this game, it would have been one of the biggest collapses in NFL history. 24 points.
Oh, it would have been pathetic.
2 minutes. They had a 24-point lead with 2 minutes left. 2 minutes left.
It was kind of similar to the Detroit game they played in 2018. They were up like 30-13, and Detroit wins that game if it wasn't for an offensive pass interference.
Right.
Or a defensive pass interference holding something. I forgot what it was. Somebody held George Kittle.
Yeah.
When Garoppolo threw a pick 6. Kendrick Bourne ran the wrong route.
Diggs? I don't know who it was.
It might have been Diggs who had the pick 6. It might have been Diggs. But
yeah. Oh, I forget who it was. Anyway, it was some DB on the Lions. Anyway, let's talk about Jason Verrett. He's out for the year. Torn ACL. It's the second time he's torn his ACL. I don't know if he'll ever play again. Anyway, that's not really the concern for Niner fans right now. It's where they stand right now. We already knew this was their weakest position, and he was one of their most important players. Let's ask it this way. Is this like the Nick Bosa injury last year?
It's as close as it gets. I think Fred Warner or Trent Williams would be like the Nick Bosa, or Nick Bosa himself would be like that injury last year. But I think this one's real close because they don't have depth at the cornerback position. I think we saw how much their depth got exposed when Dante Johnson and Ambry Thomas made their brief cameos yesterday. They don't have depth at the cornerback position, and he wasn't just a starter at the cornerback position. He was the one guy that meant starting a guy like Emmanuel Mosley, who hasn't started a lot but could be an okay starter in the NFL, or Deommodore Lenoir. When you start those guys on the other side of Jason Verrett, you have a viable cornerback tandem. When you start them together, it becomes a little bit nerve-wracking. But Jason Verrett, to me, was like a top 12, 10 corner in the league. He played that well last year. I think that a lot of their defensive growth last year with Robert Saleh, obviously, it had to do with the evolution of their defense, playing a lot more split safety coverage and stuff. But I thought that their ability to be able to guard receivers in man-to-man coverage, especially very good ones with Jason Verrett, was really what made the big difference for them last year. I mean, the second game against DeAndre Hopkins, the biggest difference between the first game and the second game was that they got physical with DeAndre Hopkins. Though obviously both, one was in Santa Clara, the second game in Arizona I'm talking about, the one they won, they beat the Cardinals and basically destroyed their playoff hopes. The big difference was that they were physical with DeAndre Hopkins. Well, you can't press DeAndre Hopkins if you're trying to guard him with Emmanuel Mosley or
no, we saw what Robert Saleh did in week 1 when Mosley was the guy on him. He played 15
they
yards
gave him
off
free access.
Yes.
They gave him free access. And they just said, you take what you want. Don't beat us over the top. The second game, they didn't have as much fear because they had Jason Verrett, a guy that they could have confidence in, and he was pressing and got physical with DeAndre Hopkins, and that's really what I thought was one of the biggest factors in them winning that football game. Obviously, there were a couple other things they did.
Absolutely. They gave up 12 points in that game.
Being able to be physical with DeAndre Hopkins was a huge thing for them. So from that standpoint, I do think, especially when you look at the receiving talent in this division and how explosive the offenses are in this division and their ability to throw the ball down the field and all of that, I think they'll miss it. Now, I do think they won't miss it in every game in the sense that the Niners aren't going to change. Like, let's say the Niners were, if you look at their roster, you want to say they're a 12-5 team this year. By losing Jason Verrett, I don't think this makes them 6-10, 6-11 team.
Mhm.
I think they can still win 10 games without
Yes.
Jason Verrett, relying on their pass rush and just dropping 7, playing zone, all of those kinds of things, especially if guys like Fred Warner and Jimmy Ward and Nick Bosa
Yeah.
stay healthy throughout the season. But I do think you will get to a point, and it becomes in the playoffs when you're playing really good quarterbacks and really good receivers, where you need Jason Verrett. You need that level corner to be able to guard. So I think where he hurts them is if
I just want to say I feel you. I agree with you, but all I would say is let's pump the brake. Let's pump the brakes on. Let me try English for a second. Let's pump the brakes on the playoff talk for a minute. Nothing
Sure.
against the Niners, but what I'm seeing right now is a team that has the worst quarterback in their division and just lost their best corner, and they're going to have a tough time matching up with their 3 opponents in their division. They're going to have a very tough time.
I agree.
Yeah.
But I more so was just making the point to say I think
right.
Jason Verrett really just affects the ceiling of this team.
No question.
I think there's only so far they can go without having a legitimate number one corner. And I think the biggest issue, it's not just the fact that they lost Jason Verrett. It's that they don't have depth behind Jason Verrett.
No.
Dante Johnson is a special teamer. And I don't know. I know people always meme on him, but Dante Johnson was what, a 5th or 6th round pick by this team.
Right.
The fact that he's lasted in the NFL this long, been a special teamer, all of that, it's a really good thing. He's made a hell of a career for himself. Ambry Thomas does not look ready to play football in 2021.
Nope.
I mean, that I think that's really the point. He might be really good down the road, but it's not ideal for him to be playing in 2021. Diamador Lenore looks good, but Diamador Lenore is your number one corner. To me is scary, especially when you consider it. I know Lenore had a fantastic game yesterday against the Lions, but who's on that Lions receiving core? Tyrell Williams, Armand St. Brown. That to me, it becomes a little more scary. I mean, next week you have Devonta Smith and Jalen Reagor, who both look good. Of course, Falcons don't have corners, but then you get Devontae Adams in week 3. Week 4, you get DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Week 5, you get DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green, Christian Kirk, Rondale Moore. It becomes tougher, and you're not going to guard these people, with just your corners and all of that. You're going to obviously play zone, and you're going to get help from your safeties and all of that. But just in general, I think there's a tougher ask on this defense. And I think it's a huge loss because, again, I thought he was one of the top 10 to 12 corners in the NFL.
Yeah, no question. They can win 10 games without him. I'm not sure where they stand in the division without him, because it'd be one thing if Trey Lance had taken over the job by now and the offense was really explosive. They did score 41 points, but I still look at them as being kind of a ball control offense with Jimmy Garoppolo. And if they're giving up big plays in the passing game without Jason Verrett, that's a problem when they play any team in the NFC West. I'm not saying they will, but they've been playing all offseason to play man coverage, and now they're going to pivot and be good at zone. I don't know. We'll have to see. If they get a good pass rush, that'll make everyone's job a lot easier.
And I mean, in structure, right? We're going to talk about it a bit more. In structure, D'Amico Ryan's defense is similar to Robert Saleh. They play the same front, and their base defense is essentially playing the old Seattle scheme cover 3 with a couple little variations. The big difference was Saleh became really a split safety coverage guy last year. They played quarters, they played 2-man, they played cover 6. That's what they really did. That was what the 49ers defense was last year from this same front. Yesterday, it looked like D'Amico Ryan's from this same front was playing single high almost exclusively the entire game. And especially
you can understand why it's like, well, they're going to run on me. I want 8 in the box, I guess. I would hate to think he would do that against any team that could throw.
Yeah.
But I noticed that from the press box. I was like, look at these 8-man fronts.
You don't want to be playing aggressive press man-to-man coverage if you don't have the corners to do it. You can't be doing that. It's too risky.
You want split safeties, and you want both guys getting help.
Exactly.
Pretty simple. Justin says, why was Iuke non-existent? Is it because he's very much not on the Jimmy G train, or is it because how he prepared this season? Designated punt returner for the season. Yeah, let's talk about Brandon Iuke. What did you make of all that?
Yeah, so I don't think that there's a lot to say about it, but I do want to read one quote to you, and then I want you to tell me who he's talking about. Okay. So this was after somebody didn't start and saw only 2 snaps with a lone pass for 7-yard gains. This was Shanahan in the post-game presser. He had health issues, Shanahan said of player in his post-game presser. That's why he missed a week of practice. He just got cleared to come back on Monday, so he was a little behind the 8 ball. But he didn't start the game, and we didn't have a ton of long drives where we got into the substitution flow.
Who's he talking about?
Dante Pettis, week
Oh my
1,
God.
after the Tampa Bay game when he played 2
Oh my
snaps.
God.
This is not the same situation. Iuke, I think, had 15 routes run. He played a good number of snaps. He just didn't get targeted for whatever reason in this game. This is not that same exact situation. And I also think Iuke is just better than Pettis. I thought he was better than Pettis last year, based on Pettis in 2018. And I think even you, who was very critical of Pettis' 2019 camp, you had a way better camp than Pettis.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that kind of makes me a little bit eerie is just the weirdness in this situation, similar to the weirdness in the Dante Pettis situation after they spent the entire offseason trying to make it look like Dante Pettis was going to be the number 1 receiver on this team. You were the only one who was pushing back on that. And then week 1 comes and Deebo Samuel and Marquise Goodwin are your 2 starting receivers. And Dante Pettis is not seeing the field.
Right.
And I thought there was a weirdness to this situation too. I don't know what it is, but that quote.
Well, real quick, I thought he was okay in training camp, but he wasn't good in preseason. No. I mean, he had the drop from Lance, the one that was high from Jimmy Garoppolo. Some people felt he ran the wrong route. He didn't really do anything in preseason. Meanwhile, Trent Sherfield went freaking crazy. Sorry, I'm sleep deprived.
No, he did.
Crazy.
He did. Yeah. But I think even as crazy as Trent Sherfield would have gone, I mean, I don't know how much Trent Sherfield could have shown in one camp to make you want to play him over a guy you traded up to. I think they traded up 3 picks to go draft Brandon Ayuk, and he had an excellent rookie season.
I have a conspiracy theory about Brandon Ayuk and why this happened.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay, so I started pushing that he should be the punt returner. Out of nowhere, all of a sudden he's returning punts. He might have liked the idea and gone to Kyle and been like, yeah, man, what's up with that? If so, Kyle might not have liked it. His attitude might be, what do you want to be, a punt returner or a wide receiver? Because you're not going to be great at both. Kyle, he can be very stern about things. And maybe he doesn't like this whole thing of Brandon Ayuk returning punts. Like, all right, fine, return punts. This Trent Sherfield wants to be a wide receiver. I don't know what occurred to me. Because it seems nitpicky. I saw Dante Pettis crash and burn. Ayuk hasn't done anything like that. He dropped a couple balls in preseason. He looked pretty good in training camp. And I like hating on Niners first round picks. It's one of my favorite things to do. Ayuk's a good player. It seems petty.
Yeah, you looked like a really good player. I was actually shocked because usually, I mean, I thought they would try and they didn't even try to get him involved in this game.
No.
They tried in aspects of this game. You would see they would just go and get George Kittle the ball. All 4 of his catches were like that. They just tried to get George Kittle the ball.
When you see something like this happen to Ayuk, when you see Trey Sermon being a healthy scratch, you wonder, like, what's the story? Did they say something? Were words exchanged? Like, did something happen behind closed doors that we just don't understand? Because it's really doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't make any sense. I like Trent Sherfield, but he's not. This guy's good. You drafted him in the first. You traded up to get him. What has he done to hurt your trust? A couple of drops.
Them not targeting him was the biggest thing, because even in the amount of snaps he's played, we've seen guys have pitch counts and stuff because of injuries before. They didn't even make an effort to get him the ball in this game.
Yeah, it was awfully strange. Kyle can say what he wants, but it seems like the guy's in his doghouse, and it's hard to say why.
I mean, the first game he played against the Jets, the first catch he made was an off schedule. But the second game he really played was the Giants game. If you remember, they ran end rounds, they ran jet sweeps. They tried just ways to get him the ball because they didn't feel he was the most comfortable at the time. They felt he had to get better with the offense. And then by week 4, week 5, they made game plan efforts to get people the ball. If Kyle Shanahan wants to get somebody the ball, he's getting him the ball. That's what was shocking to me. It wasn't even that they didn't get him the ball. They didn't even try and get him the ball. Like, it wasn't like they tried and ran a play to get him open and Jimmy missed.
They only called plays for basically Kittle and Deebo. There was like one for Sherfield. That was it.
But you wouldn't expect them to try and go out of their way to get Trent Sherfield the ball, right? You would expect it to be a similar situation where, like Mo Sanu's catch, it was a 3rd and 6. Mo Sanu runs a speed out. Jimmy hits him on a speed route out. You're reading either side of the field. He picks the concept to the left and he takes Mo Sanu and he hits it. But they didn't even do anything to get Iuke.
Yeah, no, they didn't. But I want to say something real quick. There is some similarity between him and Pettis, and this is it. Pettis' rookie year was like Iuke's rookie year in the sense that
people hyped him up.
They didn't play with Jimmy, really. Jimmy got hurt. Jimmy was out, and it was like a lot of catches and losses while playing with Nick Mullins, and other guys were out. So maybe Kyle looks at it as like, you think you accomplished something? Like someone had to get these targets. Someone had to catch these balls. You come into week 2, like year 2, thinking you've arrived. Like you haven't. And I'm going to take you down a peg right now.
You think so?
Yes.
You think it's that deep? I just want to see what
they
happens.
I mean, Matt Mayoko reported that it's about his professionalism and how he works. Like that's
I saw that. I saw that. That was when Matt Mayoko was saying that, because other reporters for the most part were saying it's his hamstring, all of that. I think even you were like, this isn't that big of a deal, is it? And then we have Matt Mayoko who's no. It's a professionalism thing. The Niners feel he has to be more professional.
Those were the whispers last year on Debo. So I'm wondering if they feel like they need to hold Iuke to the same standard. Because they were tough on Debo last year. I think they basically felt like, oh, you pulled your hamstring, like you were injured. Prepare better in the offseason. That's on you.
Yeah, most people gave Debo the injury excuse last year, but they said they felt Debo needed to get in better shape, and
get in better shape.
Him and John Lynch, their end of the year presser, they essentially said that, and then
so I think they may be holding Iuke to the same standard. And I think maybe they feel that being hard on Debo worked out, because look at him now. So maybe they hope that Iuke has the same response, because I really was the one who missed more time this offseason.
They were hard on Debo, but every game Debo played outside of the Bills game, and that was more because the Bills defense
they gave him the ball
to take Debo away.
They gave him the freaking ball.
They made it a point to get Debo Samuel involved in the game.
It's true. It's very weird. All right, Steven says, okay, how about they ran 2-3 plays for Trey and failed on 2/3 of them? Okay, let's talk about Trey real quick. I'm with you on this, Steven. The Trey runs didn't work, and it was interesting. That whole Trey Lance offense package didn't work. The one play that worked was to throw from the pocket, play action, which is what I thought. The reason I thought they drafted him, it worked. So we talked a couple of weeks ago. I told you my main question for Kyle was, why do you feel that what you're doing with Trey this year is the best way to develop him long term? I just wanted to wait for him to do it, right? Because he could always say, well, you know what I'm going to do. So he did it. It was 4 plays, 3 runs. The runs, like he was getting
smacked. Was Taysom Hill.
It was Taysom Hill. So I asked him today on a conference call, like, I understand your primary objective is winning games now, but you also have to balance that with developing this guy long term. So why do you feel the way you used him against Detroit is the best way to develop him? And he did his typical thing where he gets snippy with me because he doesn't like me or whatever, my question. And he says, well, because some playing time is better than no playing time for a backup. So I'm not going to argue with him in the conference call, but okay, that's your answer. I disagree with it. It's a bad answer.
So I actually have no issues with the answer. I think it's a tough question for him in his position. It's a fair question on your part. It's a question I would like to know the
technically,
answer of.
Sure, it's great to have playing time, but you can't tell me that him running into a pile of bodies is going to have any type of benefit for him as a pocket passer. Those things are just it's just night and day.
I thought it had a little bit of lacking understanding too. He's talking about some playing time for is good for a backup. This is not a normal backup.
No.
This is a backup future. You traded, 2 first-round picks.
You talk about him like he's a backup. It's like I don't know. I thought you wanted him. I thought you thought he was really special. I thought you went to Justin Fields' pro day and you were so smitten with Trey Lance that you had to run back to the train, draw up plays on the spot because you like him so much. And now it's like, I don't know, we'll call a few runs and we'll see.
Yeah, and even the runs they ran, I mean, they didn't work that well, but I mean, they didn't. There wasn't anything overly creative.
There wasn't anything
very
well
creative of either of them. It was just something to give a defense a different look. And I don't know if maybe they're holding out and trying to set something up as the season goes, slowly increase the package. And Jimmy did have a great.
Kyle is that way. He could be like, we don't need to do it against the Lions. Let's just set this up for the Seahawks game or something like that,
Right. And and for the most part, I mean, Jimmy was really in a rhythm yesterday, so pulling him out of that game would have been where
that is true.
The 2 quarterback where
two of the snaps were the first drive, and once you see your starter is like 7 for 7, 8 for 8, you're doing a disservice to the team to break that rhythm up. You got to keep it
Right,
in.
right,
Yeah.
and offense was flowing. I mean,
Yeah.
offense was scoring in 3, 4 plays. They were
Yeah.
going down the field. They were picking up yards in chunks. It
Yeah.
wasn't methodical drives. It was chunk plays. And I think maybe with methodical drives, you can
Debo.
that change of pace would throw people off a
Yeah.
little bit more. That's the only thing I would say. But definitely, I think in terms of its development, that's a great thought and a great question because the reason he's not starting right is because he needs to develop more. But the question is, how is he going to develop more?
Exactly. And one of the things they say is like, well, he didn't play last year. Well, he only played really 1 year in college football. Okay, so you're setting up a situation where next year you're going to say, well, he really hasn't played in 2 years, and he
That
still is very green. And I feel like what you're doing at best is stagnating the development, and at worst, I mean, you're exacerbating an issue that you've already identified. Now you're
ex
putting him, on the bench for 2 years.
So one of my questions with Trey Lance before the draft, I voiced this a few times, is that my fear with him is when you draft him, he's already not played a year,
Right.
and you would have to sit him one more year. And
Right.
how good can it be for a quarterback who hasn't played a lot to not play for an extended period of time?
You tell
And
me one kid
the,
that succeeded doing that. Who?
especially someone that played as little as Trey Lance in college, like the
Exactly.
Mahomes example. Mahomes
Right.
started 3 years and threw 1,600 passes
And
in
never took
college.
2 years off.
Yeah. So
No.
the question then with it in that context, when you're talking about Lance, then my question is, are you giving him playing time for playing time's sake? Like,
Yes.
okay, we can't sit him 2 years, so let's get him 4 plays in this game, five
Right.
plays in this game, 10 plays in this game. I think all of those questions are real and important. I mean, I'm not telling you there's a right answer here. Like what they could be doing might be exactly perfect for what Trey Lance is doing. I just would like to know the why. And unfortunately, they have no reason to share the why with us, and I don't think they ever will because I don't think they're 100% sure, honestly, of how this situation will play out by week 5 and week 6. Right now, they're just sure that this is how they're going to use Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo is going to start. The season is just so fluid.
I just think it's interesting that we talked about this all offseason. We would take, questions, and people would say, do you think the Niners should use Trey Lance in like a Taysom Hill kind of a
I
role?
despise it.
And every time you're like, oh my God, it's not that you hated the question. You just hated that it was a possibility. And you're like, no, you don't. I mean, Taysom Hill was a mid-round pick. It's not the same investment.
Yeah.
The whole thing should be developing him to be the full, genuine article, not Taysom Hill. And to see that they're going with the Taysom Hill thing at first is, I don't want to say disheartening, because to me, it's another thing in a long pattern of questionable decisions from a smart guy.
Let me say this
Questionable
to you.
decisions.
Let's forget the Niners for a second. We talk about the Niners. We all have some sort of attachment that may lead to bias with the Niners. We all watched the Sunday night game last night.
Yeah,
What the Bears did with Fields and Dalton, did it not look stupid to anybody else? Did it not look like just play Justin Fields to anybody
looks
else?
stupid.
It looked dumb to me.
Look dumb. What do they
It looked like
accomplish?
just put Justin Fields in the game.
Yeah, like what are you doing?
When he plays, he can make plays with his
Andy
athleticism.
Dalton?
Dalton is
Are you
not doing
kidding?
anything.
Yeah,
And
what are you
what
doing? You're
throws
wasting
Andy
everyone's
Dalton making in
time.
that game that
You're
Justin
wasting
Fields could
your
not
time.
make?
Yeah,
The difference is the big difference between the Niners game and the Bears game is Jimmy played a pretty efficient, excellent game overall by his
he did.
standards.
He
Andy
did.
Dalton also played a good game by his standards,
Andy
but
Dalton
even
played
that
the
good game
Rams.
by his standards, you say, well, just get Andy Dalton out of the game and play Fields.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we got to answer a bunch of questions, and then we're gonna get back on our topics. Could the artificial turf be the cause of the Niners and Lions season-ending injuries? It's tough. It's tough.
There's not 8 games played at Ford Field every single season. I don't think there's a couple season-ending injuries every game.
I
Just
do think it's
happen.
interesting though. Like I've never seen a game in the NFL where a team brings their starters out and has to put them back in. I've never seen anything like that. And I wonder if the end of the game was kind of weird on players. Like it wasn't just Kittle. I mean, it wasn't just Verrett who got hurt. Okuda, season-ending Achilles injury. And I wonder if it was the turf or the fact that they had let down a little bit and felt like the game was over and the coaches were like, no, no, no. 41-17, 2 minutes left. We're making a run for it. I don't know. It was interesting. Usually coaches just protect their players at that point. But Dan Campbell wants to bite kneecaps, and so we got some kneecaps bitten. Tony says, is the interior D-line missing Javon Kinlaw that much, or is it just Frank Ragnow is a great center? Well, we could jump down there right now. I think it's probably fair. It's all fair. The defensive line. real quick, Vish, my takeaway from this game is that all offseason I thought it was the strength of the defense. And I had to remember you don't really see run defense in camp. And boy, this defense was struggling against the run between the tackles. The only reason it didn't cost them the game is because the offense put up points and the Lions couldn't stick with the run game. So that was my takeaway, is that actually I thought it was, frankly, the weakness of the defense.
Yeah.
What do you think of the D-line?
Yeah, the double teams. I mean, Anthony Lynn. I mean, to be fair, Anthony Lynn is a great run game coordinator. He's a very good run game coordinator.
Yeah.
And they
That's the
have
best
a good
way to
interior
attack the
offensive-
wide nine. He knew what to do.
And they have a good interior offensive line. Frank Ragnow, yes, he's a great center. I tweeted yesterday, I think he's the best center in football. They were moving people. They were moving Street. They were moving Gibbons. They were moving Kerr. They were moving DJ Jones. They were moving all of them. I don't know as much if they could have moved Javon Kinlaw, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think Javon Kinlaw would have turned this run defense the way Vita Vea does for the Bucks, where they have allowed 58 rushing yards a game.
Right.
I think Javon Kinlaw would have definitely helped. We wouldn't have seen as many bigger runs.
Why is that?
I think they would have still
Why
been
is that?
moved.
Because you can't move.
Javon Kinlaw, I think we saw it even in his rookie year. He takes double teams. He just eats them. You can't move him. He's so strong at the point of attack. He's
got a low center of gravity. He's huge. He's strong. Yeah. Can't move.
He's just a beast. You can't move him. And he just makes it easier on people around him to make plays in the run game. That's a big thing.
And so he's not like a pass rusher, but his ability to defend the run the way he does from that spot really makes the wide nine work, because without those D tackles, it's a gimmick defense that sucks against the run.
To me, what really stood out is I didn't think the defensive line really dominated this game in the pass game. I mean, we saw when they had the big lead, the starters were still out there. The Lions were able to dink and dunk their way up the field.
Once the was out, they were cool. Yeah.
Those were things that wouldn't happen against the 2019 defense, because that was the moment when Eric Armstead would get a sack fumble, or Nick Bosa would get 2 sacks, or D Ford would close the game, or DeForest Buckner. And I thought yesterday, and obviously it's just one game, you have a lot of those guys coming off of injuries, but I thought the one guy that really stood out to me was Ford. I thought when Ford played, Ford made an impact on the game. Ford got pressure on the quarterback. I mean, the pick 6 by Dre Greenlaw is Dre Greenlaw. I mean, I'm sorry. I love Dre Greenlaw. 110 out of 110, or how many ever NFL linebackers are employed could have caught that ball and taken it back for 6. He was literally just in zone coverage. He was standing there. It came right to him. That play was made by D.
Dre,
Ford.
I'm on your side here. I like you, Dre.
I like Dre Greenlaw
Dre never
too,
gets any credit. He's got good hands. Let's give him that. He's got good hands.
Sure, he snagged that ball. He
catches the ball outside of his frame. I like that, and he's fast.
Okay. But D Ford absolutely destroyed the right tackle on that play and picked him up and threw him into Jared Goff. And Jared Goff, we know, with anybody within 2 inches around him, just it all goes to craziness.
Was that 2-minute drill at the end of the first half? Was that what that was?
I think it was.
I think it was. As soon as they started that, I'm like, why are you even trying? You know he's gonna throw a pick. Just take a knee, go into halftime, wherever you are. Oh, nope. Or you want to give away the game right here? Bye.
And Bosa, Sewell had a really nice start against Bosa. Bosa still had a good game, but it wasn't, the Bosa level that we're used to seeing. He's coming off an ACL. We understand that. Armstead, I thought, played a pretty bang-on game. I thought Armstead was pretty good across the board. But in general, we didn't see that front four just take over that football game. And I think that's the thing we've been expecting. And a lot of the reason people are so high on the 49ers is we not only expected the front four to take over the game, we expect the second front four to come in and not give up that level. And people like Ebukam, to me, Arden Key, guys who I thought had pretty good camps and flashed in preseason, I thought they disappointed yesterday.
No, I think what we're seeing right now is really the Niners have 2 pass rushers, Bosa and Ford. I mean, Armstead, you can appreciate Armstead the way you can appreciate Jimmy Ward, Jaquiski Tartt. If you watch the film, they do a lot of things very well. But he hasn't made an impact as a pass rusher in 2 years. And he wasn't making an impact as a pass rusher in this game. So really, you just got your edge presence. Kinlaw's a great run defender. Street's actually a pretty good pass rusher from the interior.
But he struggled in the run game.
Yes. So I don't – it's not this front four that it used to be. It's an edge rush that doesn't quite have that, it doesn't have Buckner anymore. Let's be clear. It doesn't have Buckner anymore.
But
it's so good.
I also think there is an element of this when Nick Bosa if let's say by week 4, he's fully back, he's got his feet under him, and let's say D Ford makes it to week 4 healthy, so they keep giving him more and more snaps because he keeps playing. and Kinlaw comes back, we could be, sitting here on week 4 on a Monday saying, wow, this defensive line is nasty. But at this exact moment, I didn't think that defensive line looked like the kind of defensive line, like, say, right across the division. If you watched the Arizona Cardinals front four, they took over a football game. They look like the 2019 front four. Chandler Jones.
All I want to say though is that
Watt, they dominated.
The Lions' offensive line is the only good thing they have. It's the only good thing.
But it was missing Taylor Decker yesterday, who's a good left tackle.
True, but what I want to say is Penei Sewell is good too, and my thing with Bosa is that he'll put up 10 to 12 sacks a year probably, but he's going to get them on like backup offensive linemen or the lesser offensive tackles. Like once he goes up against a true top 5 talent or top 10 talent offensive tackle, he can have a game like this.
Really?
Because yes. I mean,
I disagree because I watched Nick Bosa give David Bakhtiari.
He did good against David Bakhtiari, but I'm talking about guys who are like real first round talent. Bakhtiari is a great player, I know, but guys who are like more athletically gifted.
Trent Williams,
more athletically gifted. Yes. And Bosa's really good, but he beats up on guys who are not that. And he's so consistent that he'll get his numbers.
For me with Bosa, it isn't even the sacks because he's never been a volume sack guy. If you look at his career, the guy has never had 10 sacks.
Even
Ohio State or in the NFL. So expecting the volume sack, but usually I feel early in the game, especially, he was getting pressure. He was disengaging from blocks. I thought he looked like Nick Bosa. I even tweeted, wow, Nick Bosa is unbelievable. He's already Nick Bosa. And he barely played through camp. We didn't get to see him in preseason. And man, this guy looks freaky. But I thought throughout the game, maybe he just was tired. He didn't have his legs under him the same way. He's not in football shape. But I thought him and Sewell had a lot of he got into Sewell's body and he would get stuck. And him and Sewell would just.
We need to move on. But before we do, I think I want to go out on the point you made. We're very focused on the Niners here, but if you want to talk about what a dominant defensive line looked like week 1, go watch Arizona. That's what the Niners used to be and what they aspire to and what they could get back to. But Chandler Jones had 5 sacks in that game.
They can't be based on what I saw yesterday. I think there's a good chance Nick Bosa is Nick Bosa. I don't think you need to worry about that one. They can't be that defensive line unless D Ford plays 17 games this year.
Yeah, and plays like more in each game. He's going to have to be kind of the guy he was 3-4 years ago.
To me, Ebukam can't change that. Arden Key.
No, Ebukam's not going to be. No, Ebukam to me is a guy you play against Kyler Murray. It's like, well, Nick Bosa is going to whiff. He's not going to get. No, none of us are going to get Kyler Murray, but we're going to try to not let him run for 50 yards today, 100 yards. But I don't know. We got to move. Hold on. Charlie says Vish. Oh, hold on. I didn't want to read this one. I just wanted to put it up there real quick and smile. Thanks, Charlie.
I didn't call him out.
You did. No, Vish is much more. Vish didn't do that. I did.
Yeah. So what happened was, it was just a joke. I don't know if you saw this when Rich posted Deebo Samuel's sound clip over the Lombardi tweet that said it was a perfect throw.
That's funny.
And I just tweeted, can anybody make sure has Deebo played football before?
Right. That was just hanging out there. Really. Yeah. I wish I had actually said that one too. That's the thing that was so funny. It was like
I personally don't have anything against him. I don't always like his reporting, but I just thought that was banter. Yeah,
that's good banter. Brian says after being acclimated to the scheme, how much does Norman help? I mean, he can't be worse than Dante Johnson. I mean, you got to lower your expectations on corners you're signing in September, but he's got to be the best one available.
No, he's bad. He's bad.
Right. No, you're right. But I'm just saying, like, what are your options here? Him, Richie Sherman, which is not an option. What are your options at this point? Steven Nelson's been gone.
I think they could have been more proactive in this situation, and I think most people have been vocal about how proactive they've needed to be in this. But I don't know what the expectation is. He's just a name at this point. He's just a name of a guy who was pretty good in 2015.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't understand the Niners' organizational decision and philosophy to just not draft corners until way too late. Like, what is that?
I mean, maybe they expected Ambry to come in and contribute from day one immediately. That's why they drafted him in the 3rd round. But unfortunately, he hasn't played football in a year. So, like, Ambry Thomas maybe needing a year right now, it's not the most shocking thing.
I think a lot of these, I'm not. A lot of these rookies that didn't play last year seem pretty rusty. Sushi
Yeah.
Juice says here's $10. Let me see if Sushi Juice had something to say. I don't see anything from Sushi Juice. Well, thank you, Sushi Juice. That was very nice. Pluffy Phil says D Ford looked really good. He surpassed a lot of expectations. If he stays healthy and plays more, the Niners will be okay.
Yeah. Yup.
Because you saw that right with Arizona. Everyone, I picked them to go to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. And everyone's like, well, their corners suck. I did. Last week, I picked Kansas City to beat Arizona in the Super Bowl. And I had to do it because of Sports Illustrated, like where they polled all of us. And they were I'm the only person that picked Arizona. The Arizona writer, Howard Balzer, interviewed me. He was like, this is amazing. Why do you think this? And a lot of people pointed to their cornerbacks are atrocious. Well, if you have a great front seven and a great pass rush, you can get by. And that's what the Niners are going to have to do. The Cardinals did it. I mean, they shut down a team with freaking A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. So it can be done.
Derrick Henry.
Yeah, it can be done. And the Niners have Byron Murphy and whoever the hell else started can't be better than Diamador Lenore and Mosley. Maybe they're about the same. So I don't know. There's hope. But yeah, I picked
somebody
the Cardinals.
saying Byron Murphy looks elite. I watched
Byron Murphy coming
out.
He had a good
game in that
struggled.
game, but he had a good game yesterday. But again, when you have a pass rush that dominated the game the way Arizona's front four does, a lot of corners play real well.
Yeah. Also, Cardinals look great, but the Titans are going to struggle this year because they lost Arthur Smith and replaced him with Todd Downing, who residents of Oakland are very familiar with because he's the one who got Jack Del Rio fired. Del Rio was doing just fine. Then he got rid of Bill Musgrave, who is like a low-level coordinator, and brought in Todd Downing, who made Bill Musgrave look like Bill Walsh. And
I remember
the whole operation fell
with
apart.
Bill Musgrave, Derek Carr had an MVP season.
Exactly.
Before he broke his leg.
And they're thinking, oh, we can do better or something. And so Todd Downing, Downing is just gets everyone fired. That's his.
I will say this though, Grant. The Arizona Cardinals really are Kyler Murray getting a slightly banged up left shoulder away from regressing to the point they regressed.
Oh, no question.
I mean, he
was good last year to start.
Kyler Murray was playing like an MVP candidate.
Exactly.
And
this is a very risky. I didn't put money on it. I don't actually.
Yeah, their offense is just too Kyler. I would like Cliff Kingsbury to do something and have something in his offense that doesn't involve just utilizing the.
No, that doesn't exist. It's all Kyler. But
yeah.
Here's the thing. It's like, do you think that a quarterback is safer in a pocket in 2021 or doing what Kyler does? I now believe that what Kyler does is actually safer.
But I also think he knows how to protect himself better than any quarterback in the NFL.
Did you see that play yesterday where he rolled right, came all the way back to the left, stopped, let the guy come back in front of him? It was like he was moving. It's like he was, like everyone was moving in slow motion and he was crazy.
He's 23 years old, but he already knows how to live another play. If you get him on an all-out blitz or something, he'll go straight down. He won't take the hit on the sack. He goes straight down.
He's really good. He's just as quick as Lamar Jackson with a much bigger arm. I mean, really, if he was 6'2", everyone will be saying this is the most gifted quarterback I've ever seen. But he's 5'10". I don't think it matters. Anyway.
Grant, real quick, people really want you to talk about the fact that the 49ers signed Dre Kirkpatrick.
They did?
Yeah.
The Niners signed Dre Kirkpatrick when?
Yeah, they signed him about like 35 minutes ago, maybe. I haven't been saying it this whole time because to me it's a little bit of a non-story. He was brutal for Arizona last year. He was really
let's talk
brutal.
about it right now. The Niners signed Dre Kirkpatrick. What do you think?
I mean, it's a depth piece. It's a veteran name. It's a guy who's played and started a lot of football in his career. Do I think it changes anything? No.
Well, let's look at it this way. Was it a week ago they signed Josh Norman? Okay, A week ago they signed Josh Norman because Mosley's a little iffy. Kirkpatrick was available. They were like, Norman. We want Norman because Kirkpatrick is somehow worse. And now when another guy goes down, they're like, okay, let's call up Kirkpatrick again. So he might be good, but the Niners think Norman's better.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw Dre Kirkpatrick a decent amount last year because I watched a little bit of the Cardinals defense early in the offseason because I wanted to see Isaiah Simmons' rookie season. And one of my takeaways was that Isaiah Simmons actually played really well at the end of his rookie season when they used him exclusively as a middle linebacker. That's way besides the point. But watching their defense, I got to watch a decent amount of Dre Kirkpatrick. And let me tell you, if you think their corners struggled this year, they also struggled last year. And Dre Kirkpatrick, I mean, when he was drafted in the first round out of Alabama by Cincinnati, he was probably a starting caliber corner then. He's always been a little bit grabby, very grabby actually. But I don't think he's a starting caliber corner anymore. I think it's a nice depth piece. Maybe he comes out and plays great for the 49ers. Maybe he's been injured the last couple of years and the time off helped him get his body right or whatever. I don't know. I'm trying to put out possibilities here, but I'm not like sitting here saying, "Ooh, the Niners signed Dre Kirkpatrick. Everything is saved now." I think I would be shocked if he even is anything more than a guy if Mosley or Lenore get hurt. Like, I don't think him or Norman are capable. I would start. What I'm saying is, I would start Mosley and Lenore over him and Norman.
Right, and I would start Norman over him. And so I think one thing that's important to remember, I forgot that he played for the Cardinals last year. He was a longtime Bengal, started a lot of games for the Bengals, and was he was okay. He was never great.
He was fine.
He was a first-round pick who played like a solid starter, was with the Cardinals last year. All you need to know is they didn't want him. They came into this year with what most experts would consider the worst group of cornerbacks in the league, and they felt Dre Kirkpatrick can't make us any better. So they went with Byron Murphy and Robert Alford, and we're like, you know what, Dre? Good luck. All the best. Oh, you're going to go to our rival in the NFC West? Well, we're going to be throwing at you a lot if you're ever on the field. So good luck. I mean, it's just depth. And what I think is interesting here is that they didn't call Richard Sherman. I think to me, I think Richard Sherman is better than Dre Kirkpatrick. I think he's better than Josh Norman. And I think if he hadn't been going through what he's going through, which is clearly very serious, he'd be on this team right now.
You think so?
I do. I think he's better than these guys. And I'm not a Richard Sherman guy, but
Josh Norman, what really bothers me?
What?
This is the situation why, maybe they like DJ Reed letting him go in that sense. After they had him for 2 years, they really believed in him, developed him and all of that. This is the situation where, as a fan, it frustrates me that he's contributing for Seattle and the Niners.
And there's one other hindsight one that I tweeted about today and mentioned yesterday. Asante Samuel Jr. I mean, really, you should be wanting to draft a corner in round 1 or round 2 most years, because it's a position with low shelf life and high importance. So you get a guy with that kind of pedigree in mid-round 2, you should be thanking your lucky stars on that one. Instead, you trade down for a guard, use that pick that you get to trade up for a running back. Neither guy works out, and they're not premium positions. You played yourself. Anyway, Dre Kirkpatrick, nice to see you. Good to meet you. I've always admired your game. You were a hell of a player when I was 24, so let's see what you got. All right. Good job, Niners. I do think it's interesting they didn't go after Sherman, but not surprising. When someone asked Kyle Shanahan yesterday if he would consider it, he was, yeah, we'd always consider that, which means like we're not going to do that.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do, but yeah, I think that at some point their move might have to be, and I think it just has to see how the season goes. You need people to step up. Maybe Mosley and Lenore step up and play at that level, but I think at some point, if they want to go get a starting caliber corner, they're going to have to trade for it, because honestly, Grant, I'm going to be honest with you. There's 32 NFL teams. Each team has 2 starting corners.
Exactly.
There's 64 corners starting in the NFL. All 32 teams don't have 2 starting caliber corners. Honestly, probably only like 10 or 12 have 2 starting caliber
exactly
corners. It's a very it's a position that lacks depth across the NFL.
That's why you need to be throwing draft picks, premium draft picks at this position, not 103, which is Ambry Thomas. I'm talking 25, 35, 45.
That's why that's your Cincinnati team that you mentioned.
Exactly.
They not only drafted Dre Kirkpatrick, but that same regime with Marvin Lewis drafted William Jackson in the first round. They drafted
especially now the Niners want to play man coverage.
Jonathan Joseph. They drafted so many corners in the first round. That regime. I mean, you look at Green Bay. They've drafted Kevin King, Eric Stokes, Jair Alexander. It's just
you're
very
not going to hit all the time.
They missed on half of them.
You're screwed if you try to wait. If you wait till free agency, you're getting guys who have been hurt, or they're past their prime, or they're hell of expensive. I mean,
take the Rams, right? I like their trio of Ramsey, Darius Williams, David Long Jr., who they drafted in the 3rd round a couple years ago out of Michigan.
Guess what? Guys
what happens to Ramsey? The Rams are every bit as screwed as the 49ers. There's just not cornerback depth in the NFL.
Okay, we're way backlogged on comments. Let's get to Thomas. He says, "Let's say Kinlaw plays 5 games this year. What's the end result? And is there a way to think about this situation positively?" If he plays 5 games this year, there's nothing positive about that. But it's possible. I don't know. This knee thing, he's just such a big guy. I don't see. They talk about, well, he's been feeling better the last 4 days. Man, it's going to be ups and downs with him, I think. He's
I
through
think
30.
I think the most irritating thing for me about the knee thing is, and I can never say a bad thing really about the Niners drafting Kinlaw because I loved Javon Kinlaw before that draft. The irritating thing is that the reports on Kinlaw before that draft, if you remember, Kinlaw went from a borderline first, second round pick, had the Senior Bowl, shot up. Everybody was saying top 12, top 13 pick. Then
Because he had like a
the
few
draft,
good days
he
at the Senior Bowl. But then he
stopped.
left.
Yeah.
He left the Senior Bowl early. And it was like, oh, because he played so well. No, he had knee tendonitis.
But that was the point, right? Before
Yeah.
the draft, again, Kinlaw's stock went back to like he's going to go somewhere between 10 and 20 because people said some teams have him off their board because they're concerned about his knee. I mean, the day of the draft, I think there was a report about Javon Kinlaw's knee tendonitis.
Yep. It's true. And the Niners are the one team that I think what they just as an organization, Coach Noah Johnson DM'd me this earlier, but it's a good observation. They've just had way too much belief and trust in this strategy of why don't you get guys who've had a torn ACL? Why don't you get guys and work with them? Now you have a whole team full of that guy. So you're like, odds are a few of the guys are going to have repeat injuries. Odds are.
This goes back to bulky.
Yeah, it really does. And it makes you wonder if it's
Thomas.
something that like Parag is interested in, or if it makes some type of Moneyball sense to the team. Anyway, I missed it. Hold on. Dang. Hold on.
Yeah, Brandon Thomas, Keith Weezer, Will Redmond.
Maybe it's a thing that California teams think they need. I don't know. Miguel Cruz says, rumor going around about Sermon and Iuke missing curfew. Look at what Mike McDaniel said about Sermon before game. I didn't hear that. Something doesn't add up. That's what I'm saying. I feel like something that we don't know. Something that happened. Yeah, missing curfew would definitely fit the bill, but I will probably never know.
Does anybody know what Mike McDaniel said?
He doesn't talk. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Let me know if you know what he said. Mike McCullough says, Grant and Vish, do you both feel good about the 10.5 over win total for this year? New prediction for win-loss total for the season.
I think I had the Niners winning 10 or 11 games.
I had to win 10. Good. Now without Verrett and Mostert, I don't know, man. 9? I'm starting to think this is the weakest team in the NFC West, but not that it's a weak team. I think that this division is the best division I can remember. At least if week 1's any indication.
I just think the Niners also have an easier schedule outside of the division.
That is true.
Even though they don't play the division well. So even with that, I still think they're going to be
right. They could start the season 3-0.
10 is going to be, to me, right where they're going to be, 10 to 11.
The Niners could definitely start the season 3-0 and not be a great team. It's interesting. Matt says, Mayoko's tweet about Iuke being a pro. Thoughts? Yeah, we talked about that.
I mean, it lines up with the curfew thing.
Maybe, yeah, stuff like that.
But then why wouldn't they tweet anything about Sermon if they missed it together? Why wouldn't they say we need Sermon to be more of a pro?
Strange. We'll have to monitor this and see if there's a pattern, or if these guys actually get playing time the next couple of weeks. Maybe if they play next week, it lends credence to the curfew theory, because that's a 1 week punishment to me. Curfew. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Gustavo says, hey, Grant, do you think Kyle's lack of leadership is holding the team back? It's as if the Niners are the only team with these types of problems. Yeah, I've been saying that for a couple of years. Most Niner fans don't want to hear that. I think the burden of proof's on Kyle. There's certain things that he does great, and I do think he's a valuable member to any organization. But the question is, has he been over-promoted? Burden's on him. I don't know. Again, they're going to probably start the season 3-0. Although next week, they're only 3-point favorites.
Slam it.
No. They got good wide receivers over there, man. They got Devontae Smith. Ron says, Kyle's mismanagement of certain players and draft picks is starting to tick 49ers fans off. Yeah, it's year 5. And I think Niner fans have been very patient with Kyle because he deserves it. And they know Kyle. He's Mike Shanahan's son. He was a ball boy on the 94 Niner team. And they all kind of sympathized with his plight. Year 5, though, dude. It's time. And a lot of these issues are stuff that you've created. So I think Niner fans are right to finally demand results. Niner signing Dre Kirkpatrick, man. We're like a half hour behind. As always, great Monday content, you guys. Thank you very much, Marlon. Appreciate it. We just got so wrapped up. Sean says, hey, wasn't Trey running a read option, not a RPI still bad. Debo makes things happen whenever he touches the ball. Iuke has flashes but doesn't explode like Debo, and he can corners available. Great job. Okay. Wasn't Trey running a read option, not in run pass? I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is. I don't understand what the Trey Lance package is. It looks like something they haven't practiced very much. That's they didn't block it well. It just seemed like something they haven't done very much.
I mean, I don't know if them not planning when they use them and just being like, oh, Trey Lance
Here it
time
is.
is
point.
really what's best, because maybe
But real quick, hold on. The fact that he was in the first drive would suggest that he was in the
that
script.
they had it planned, right?
What are you
But Kyle
talking
Shanahan
about?
keeps saying, I just do it based on feel. But then if I'm a player, right, and you're doing something, it's working, you're down the field, and all of a sudden Trey Lance comes in, you have to do something else. Because one of the things they mentioned on the broadcast, Mark Sanchez said that Kyle Shanahan said that Trey Lance is a quarterback, so they want to run quarterback plays with him. Well, running a quarterback draw with a jet motion this way and
Kyle just says whatever,
like
man.
that is not, yeah.
He just says whatever at these days. I love it.
And also the second part of this, I do remember this offseason. A lot of people pushed back on me when I said Deebo Samuel is more explosive.
You thought Vish was gonna forget that you pushed back on him on that? Because Vish was right. Well, the thing, yeah, Debo, yeah, he looks great. He really does. Pino Anderson says, should Lynch make a call to Pitt for Hayden? If so, with a lack of picks, which player is disposable? Hayden plug and play, similar to Brent's skill set.
Sure, I'd love to get Joe Hayden, but
is he available?
What are they going to trade for Joe Hayden?
Yeah, can they even afford him? They have $7 million in cap space. I don't know what he's making, but yeah, they don't have picks to trade. RO, not RPO. Yeah, we got you. Harry says Niners got Dre Kirkpatrick. Read your chat, Grant. Sorry, sorry. Carson says, who finishes with more total TDs, Jimmy or Trey? Also, Azeez Al-Shaair looked very good. Would you consider trading Dre Greenlaw for a cornerback? Don't forget we're going to have to pay Dre too. Okay, we'll talk about Azeez right now. Who finished with more total TDs, Jimmy or Trey?
Probably Jimmy.
Probably Jimmy.
Whoever plays more.
Probably Jimmy. Know. I mean, Jimmy's playing like 98% of the snaps. Okay, let's talk about Azeez. Hold on. Boom, we had it queued up. He looked really good, didn't he?
He looked unbelievable.
What'd you see?
He looked fast. He looked violent. He looked unbelievable. I thought the same exact thing, that, you know, I know a lot of fans really love Dre Greenlaw. I love him too. I mean, the plays he made, especially in 2019, the two in the Seattle games are iconic. The pick in overtime against Russell Wilson, and then of course the goal line tackle. That's one that's going to be in 49ers lore. Like, that's one that 50 years from now people will still be talking about. Hey, do you remember the Dre Greenlaw hit week 17, last football game of the regular season against Seattle? But to me, Greenlaw, I think that what he does gets a little bit overstated on whether it's replaceable. And what he's asked to do, he's not Fred Warner. I think everybody knows that. But he's also not Fred Warner in coverage. And he's not asked to do those kinds of things in coverage. What he is fast and a sure tackler. And if a play happens in front of him, he's not the most instinctive reactor, but he can react, get to the guy, and make a clean tackle in the open field. And that's a good thing for a linebacker. And that's why, as a fifth-round pick, he started, basically 3 straight years. He started every game, and he's been a good player. But that is also replaceable when you have a guy like Al-Shaair, Al-Shaair looks like he's finally fully recovered from his ACL. He's flying around, and he's hitting with violence. Yeah. He looks really, really good. It looks like he also has a better understanding on his cues.
And I think the implication here, or the impact, I don't know, the fallout, is that the Niners don't have to pay Dre Greenlaw. The Niners have already spent a lot of money on Fred Warner. They can basically just keep doing this, you know, undrafted free agents, late round picks, and don't spend a lot of money on linebackers, because there are 2 positions that the Niners develop really well: running back, linebacker. Don't spend big draft capital. You already have Fred Warner. Just keep doing the thing with Al-Shaair. They should have held on to the 2 guys that got claimed off waivers. Everyone knows the Niners are the linebacker factory of the NFL. Stick with those guys. They're cheap.
A lot of it has to do with the fact that they don't ask linebackers to think a lot. They're just looking for guys that are fast and can hit and play fast.
Right.
And Alshire
They
fits
put
that exact mold. And the point is, the one superstar, the irreplaceable guy is Warner. He's the guy that can do things in coverage no other linebacker in the NFL can do. But these other guys, as long as they're playing next to Fred Warner and they're playing this role, they can definitely execute it. And that's where I think when you have to make cap decisions, a guy like Alshire, if he's playing the way he played yesterday, can replace Greenlaw, who might command more than, I mean, he started how many games in the NFL? He's going to command a starter salary.
Don't pay him. Do not pay him. I was going to say, Bay Area sports fans might know this analogy. Dre Greenlaw is like the Cody Ross of this team. 10 years ago when the Giants were winning World Series, they had this outfielder named Cody Ross who was okay. But then in the playoffs, he just hit a bunch of home runs in really critical situations off like Cliff Lee, like to win games in the NL championship. Anyway, Cody Ross is a legend. Pat Burrell is a legend because they just a couple of key home runs in big moments, but it's not like they're special players. So I would say that's all I'm saying. All right. David says, chat says cornerback Dre Kirkpatrick signed. Comments. Good
That's
for Dre.
Person that's told you.
Good for Dre. Steven says the turf, I feel like, does have to do with the injuries. Look at how Verrett destroyed his ACL. Look at how he slide to grip the ground. I know, man. You know what sucks? Being a professional athlete. It's rough. You have to beat the odds to get there, and then one injury. My heart goes out to him, but at the same time, it's like, well, you wanted to be a gladiator and test yourself in the most difficult. It's not easy. There's a reason why people don't do this. I mean, you wanted to do this, and it pays well, and you'll be okay. I mean, it's ACL. He's not gonna be walking with a cane. He'll be all right. But his dream could be. It's a tough dream to pursue. Look at Josh Rosen. I felt bad for him, but at the same time, like, well, you wanted to do this, Josh. I mean, I'm sorry. No one asked you to be a football player. Official BNA Music 88 says, tin hat mode. Ooh, I like that. Possible beef between the wide receivers and Jimmy Garoppolo. Debo and Trent are probably being pros about it, but I might have a problem. I like having people being able to throw.
You love this theories. Stuff.
I like being able to like have like the collective.
I disagree with it. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's what's interesting is that fans are wondering this kind of stuff.
See, the problem with this and the reason why it doesn't make sense to me is that this team should be more committed to Brandon Iuke than they are to Jimmy Garoppolo at this point because of what they gave up for Trey Lance. They have a replacement for Trey Lance.
There is some evidence that there could be a split. I mean, when you hear Kittle talk about Trey Lance, it's a little condescending. Like he's good for a 21-year-old. And then you hear Debo talk about Jimmy last night, and it's again condescending. Like, yeah, it wasn't a great throw, but I went out there and made a play. We're all reading into this, and we don't know. But you can see how people would start to be like, what? Who's okay? So there's sides, and who's on whose side here? What is going on? I don't know. It's a very strange situation. It seems like something that most coaches would try to avoid for these reasons.
The other shoot, I totally
sorry. I hate when that happens. Anyway, if it comes back, we have so many of these we got to hit. Devin says, honestly, Kyle needs to be judged. Terrible in-game adjustments. History of letting his foot off the gas too early. Why didn't he learn? I think
the wrong people are getting blamed for this game. I'm going to be honest. I think the wrong people are getting blamed for this game. It's been Kyle. I saw some people saying it's Jimmy G for not completing the 3rd and 6 and throwing it maybe half a foot behind Debo Samuel.
I saw that too.
The guy that's really should be getting blamed for this game is
let's talk about him.
Team. The captain of this football team.
Yeah.
A guy who I'm sure they practiced situationally and made him the hands guy. There's no reason for him to go Brandon Bostic on that onside kick. All of this conversation, the Lions scoring a touchdown in garbage time, all of that, that's routine in an NFL game.
Yes.
Defenses get their head on, put their...
The only reason this game was a game is because of George Kittle.
He muffed the onside kick. That's why this game was a game.
Yeah, he took it off his face.
I've seen the Debo fumble get blamed. I've seen the the Jimmy Garoppolo throw. I've seen people say Kyle Shanahan. I saw your tweet. That was funny. Kyle Shanahan with a 4.4 touchdown lead is the scariest.
Kyle Shanahan versus a 4-score lead. Favorite. I love this matchup.
No, but really, the guy that should be getting blamed is Kittle. They've probably gone over that. I'm sure the Niners aren't a bad situational football team the way the Jim Harbaugh 49ers were. I mean, if you remember, one of their biggest issues was they were just bad situationally. This Niners team is prepared for the most part situationally. And so I'm sure they've gone over that. They believed in George Kittle so much the first time that they had Mo Sanu as the hands guy on the second onside kick. But Fred Warner, of course, with great confidence, just went and got that
Yes.
football. But George Kittle, to me, I know the ball bounced right before him, but right when that ball bounced, he wasn't sure whether he should go attack that ball or he should just stay back and catch it. And ball hits him in the face mask. Bang, Lions recovered. But really, this game is a game because George Kittle did not recover an onside kick that was pretty routine. He was wide open.
Like,
it was just him.
let's be honest. If Ross Dwelly was in that position, game over.
Yeah,
Mohamed Sanu,
actually,
game
I was
over.
thinking of that same thing because Ross Dwelly was the guy who picks up the guy right in front of Kittle, so he's right in front of Kittle blocking. If you switch their roles, because Dwelly
Kittle's
also
a better blocker.
like,
Dwelly has better hand-eye coordination. I mean, but who am I? I'm just quality control. No, yeah, George, it was your fault. And what's funny is we talked to him about it after the game, and someone was like, "Take us through that play." He was like, "Oh yeah, it was just a perfect kick. Just a perfect. There's nothing I could do. Nothing you could do. Sub yourself out, dude. Give Dwelly a chance, or Sanu, or someone. I mean, if that's your attitude, like there are just certain onside kicks that I can't handle. Tell the coach that. So I don't think it's not for me, man.
Well, what I don't get is the perfect onside kick, whatever. But like, I just don't understand how the conversation about this football game has been on so many other things. But the Lions scoring with under 2 minutes is a very routine thing. Yeah. This became a football game when that onside kick hit him in the face. If he recovers that onside kick, the Niners run the ball 4 times, and that game is over. The Niners win the game, 41-26 or 41-25, whatever the score
all we're talking about is Kyle Shanahan getting Jason Verrett hurt in a blowout. Instead, George Kittle takes the ball off his face, and things get very interesting. That's the only reason things got interesting. And it's like you would not expect the Niners to not field an onside kick. Why would you expect that to happen?
I mean, people are bringing up the Debo fumble. I mean, you should not have to throw the ball with 55 seconds left to convert a 3rd and 12 up 41-33. Like that should not be happening in a game that you were up 41-14 with what?
Did you hear that Bosa took all of his tape off? They told him he was done. He went to the sideline. He took all his tape off, and they were like, "Hey, Nick, about that, we need you." He was like, "Okay."
No, but these are the kind of things.
I've never seen anything like that.
If he recovers that onside kick with 1:50 left, this is the most routine blowout of all time. There's no conversation about the Niners nearly blowing the game and all of that. And yes, Debo should not have fumbled. That's on Debo. He definitely should not have fumbled in that area. They converted the 3rd down. But when you were up by how much they were up, they do not need a 3rd down conversion with 55 seconds left to ice that football game. George Kittle he's the best football player on this team, or one of, if you want to say Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, who I would say are the 2 best, and I'd probably put Kittle 3rd. But are you kidding me? Yeah. You have to. That's a no-brainer to me. And it goes back to this special teams. I mean, Robbie Gould once again missing
a 50. You want to be paid like a wide receiver? Goal. Catch the ball.
They make too many mistakes for a veteran football team when you're trying to close games. Like, first of all, fumble snap exchange, first play of your season. That's a mistake that shouldn't happen for any team that's has the aspirations they have. They made that mistake. Then you look
you weren't playing a real team. Otherwise, that could have lost the game for you right off the bat.
I mean, the fact they treat Robbie Gould like he's a Fred Warner, a George Kittle, a franchise level player as a kicker, and he cannot. You cannot rely on him from 50 plus yards. No. That's basically like having a quarterback that you can't throw 50 plus yards down the field, but you're really happy with how he throws the ball from 0 to 15 yards. So that's not ideal.
Sounds and like
then finally, like this is just a bad special teams play. You have to be able to catch this football on the onside kick. I mean, the Green Bay Packers. The reason the Seattle Seahawks went to the Super Bowl in 2014 is because Brandon Bostic did exactly what George Kittle did yesterday.
And Brandon Bostic isn't George Kittle. All right, we need to move on. George, be better than Brandon Bostic. Alex says, these are my crusades. Artificial turf and endlessly inconsistent holding calls, no calls. Is this just another issue the NFL doesn't feel matter? See, this is something. I feel like Niner fans, Raider fans used to always do this. But this is mentality out here in the Bay that the NFL hates Bay Area football teams and is somehow screwing them over relentlessly.
The West Coast.
They just hate the West Coast in general. Yeah. Niners just signed Dre Kirkpatrick. Thank you, Jonathan. I think it's a terrific move. Just a phenomenal move. Man, we're way behind. We're like 35 minutes behind. Okay. Moving on. Wow.
Wait, real quick. Somebody did say the Brandon Bostic play and George Kittle play. Somebody said they're two completely different onside. Yes, they are. Bostic should have never gone for the ball. He's not the hands guy. I'm just saying he muffed it the same way Bostic did.
Yep. Don says Kyle thought he had the game won, called blah mid third quarter forward, and his whole team followed him to a near collapse. Kyle is his own worst enemy.
What do you mean?
He is his own worst enemy.
Blah mid.
What?
They had 41 points in this game. Ooh, I don't know what else he's supposed to do. He's basically running out the clock, which I don't understand. Like the targets, if the 49ers lose football games, I can name them. Today, like now it's become Kyle Shanahan is one. Garoppolo is always one. Tartan Ward are always somehow one.
No, he's the head coach. This is a fair comment from Don. I hear what you're saying. I do. I hear what you're saying, and we're not saying that Kyle Shanahan is a loser, and that I think what we're saying is that he is Superman and Lex Luthor at the same time. And maybe he wasn't Lex Luthor in this game, but maybe he was.
I have to ask you this question.
Uh-huh.
Let's take this back to 2013. If Vernon Davis does what George Kittle did on that onside kick, do people blame Jim Harbaugh for that game?
Yeah. Like for example, they blamed him for having Kyle Williams back there. Like, you're the head coach. Because Kyle Williams fumbled twice. Anyway, we don't need to get off the point, but I think that basically the head coach always wears it. Always.
But I do think people blame Vernon Davis big a lot more. I mean, Vernon Davis had drops in games that people always came back to. I don't know why.
It's always like 7 people who have to share the blame. It's not one person. You can't just put it on one person.
But to me, I think the big conversation in this game is like George
Kittle.
You just have to
face mask. Yeah, you're supposed to be a top 5 player in the league, and you pulled a Brian Bostic. Anthony C says Niners need to get someone qualified to address their drafting. Scott McCloughan as a consultant, man. I know he had a drinking problem, but he was good. He was really good. But yeah, there's other guys out there too. I feel like we were talking about this. The Niners, why are they so much better drafting in the second half of the draft? I feel like that's when the scouts are allowed to do their job, and they're drafting people based on their expertise and not maybe the coaches who are drafting based on scheme fit, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we get on them for drafting, but they just had a 5th-round rookie start a game at corner and play pretty well. You have to be drafting well to have a guy start.
Someone in the organization figured that guy out. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think like drafting is so difficult. I mean, you would like all your draft picks 1st, 2nd, and 3rd to always hit, but if you can get 3 good players from a draft, it's a good draft.
Dave in the Desert says, don't know if you already covered it, but the defense not that strong. Goff had too much time, and the runs up the middle were too easy. That was concerning. That was concerning, but it was week 1. I think this happened to them in 2019 too. Didn't Tampa Bay kind of find some success between the tackles with Ronald Jones? They ran the ball well on him. They did, right?
Ronald Jones had a game.
I think maybe this might be.
Remember, people were blaming it on losing Quan Alexander in that game. That's why Ronald Jones had a game.
But it wasn't. It was really Buckner getting moved around because he's not a good fit for the wide 9. End of story. Bono says great stats on Sunday. 1, Jimmy 136 passer rating and 6 for 8 on passes over 10 yards. 2, O-line allowed 2 pressures. 3, D-line 31 pressures and 3 sacks. Thoughts? Okay, hold on.
They're going against the worst defensive line in football.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. The first 2 stats are related. What I saw from Jimmy is a guy who made all the throws, which was very encouraging for him. But had clean
well too.
Yeah, he moved well. Doesn't have. We're going to talk about him in a second. Actually, let's talk about right now. Jimmy Garoppolo. He played really well. What'd you see from him?
Thumbs up.
Yeah,
it is the best game I've seen in a long time. Not better than any game he played in 2020. Yeah. Maybe the first half against the Jets was pretty good, but yeah, I thought it was the best game he played in a long time. He looked confident. He looked decisive. He made good decisions. He threw the ball well. He was accurate all game. There wasn't really any balls that got away from him. He moved well in the pocket. He was decisive on running in a couple of scenarios. He was decisive on getting himself away from the spot he was sitting at. He got blitzed one time and he got hot and converted.
He didn't turn the ball over. He fumbled, but he didn't throw any picks.
Yeah, I thought he didn't throw one pass that was just a "what are you doing" type knucklehead, like crazy, like there. I thought he overall had a good game. I thought the touchdown throw to Debo was gutsy. By no means would I call it a perfect throw or even a good throw. He stood tall in the pocket. It was a good decision.
You
It
don't have
was
to
a
make
good
perfect throws.
decision. You got a
Yep.
one-on-one on the outside
Yep.
with Deebo Samuel, take the shot. Now, if Jeff Okudah turns his head, maybe it's a pick six, but Jeff Okudah didn't turn his head. Deebo makes a play on the ball, and it's a big-time touchdown, but hats off to him for
No,
standing
that
in
was a
and
hell of a
throwing
throw.
that
That was
ball.
honestly one of the better throws I've ever seen Jimmy Garoppolo make. He took the shot. He took the hit. He threw it deep outside the numbers. It wasn't a perfect throw, but we know he doesn't have a great arm. Like, that was the best he could do. It worked. He gave Deebo Samuel a
He
chance,
gave
and
him a
Deebo's supposed to
chance.
make that catch.
Yeah.
Debo, he was like really impressed with himself after the game. Dude, you're supposed to make that catch.
But there's absolutely nothing wrong with a quarterback getting bailed out by his receiver. There's nothing wrong with it. The fact
No,
that
you
he
got to
took the
give a
opportunity
chance.
under pressure is
Yep.
nice.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I thought overall he just played a really clean, good game. And I think if he's able to play at this level, Niners will be tough to
Yes.
beat. He
But why
played
did he play a
efficient,
clean,
accurate.
good game? We said it earlier. Had all time. He had a good pocket. He had a great pocket because his offensive line played well, and that D line just had, I mean, wow. And then it seemed to me that he had a lot of play action throws, and when he turned around to look at his first receiver, most of the time it was Debo or Kittle, and the guy was open. So he made the throws. I'm not minimizing that at all, but I think that's partially why he played so well. And if he's under pressure or his first read isn't open, we're going to see the Jimmy that we've always seen in the future. But we didn't see it in this game.
I do think he was more precise in the intermediate area, though, than we've seen in a really, really long time. Though 10 to 15 yards area, I thought his ball placement and accuracy, especially the last few times we've seen him play, has left a lot to be desired. He's high and often
I was
and
surprised
sometimes
by his
behind.
accuracy. It's been a
He
while.
was
I
on
was like,
point.
wow. Yeah.
The throws to Debo, even when Debo was open, he was just striking them right into
He didn't do
Debo's
that in
chest
camp,
and
Vish.
stride.
It's
It looked
very
good.
weird all of a sudden he getting it together. Other thing I think is the fact that he's not wearing a knee brace anymore. I mean, some quarterbacks wear it and it's good for them, but I think for him it kind of was the symbolization of his mental block. And I think we saw that he didn't play as well post ACL surgery. And finally, that he's not wearing it anymore. He's starting to look like the guy who used to move around better. Not 100% like that guy, but better. So that's good.
And we've seen him get rattled moments in games, and of course, he didn't have pressure or anything or game situation to get rattled. But I thought it was good that he was supremely confident throughout the game.
He was. You just got to get the fumble. You just get a turnover on the first play, move on, get the jitters out. Anyway, yes. Okay, we got more. Max, what is your take on why the Niners broke down mentally in the last 2 minutes of the game? Was it just a Verrett injury for you? That's I don't know. Now, you could say they didn't break down mentally. It's all George Kittle. Or you could say George Kittle was maybe
part of them breaking down.
I mean, George Kittle, you wouldn't expect that from him. It was all very out of character. I don't know if I have an answer to this one, Vish, but it's a good question. It's definitely a good question.
Because honestly, to me, in garbage time, when you're up by that much, it's routine for a team to maybe get a score and 2-point conversion or a couple of scores. What's not routine is you muffing the onside kick, then them coming back and scoring again, and now all of a sudden your offense is getting the ball back in a 41-33 football game that you were just blowing them out. And you have like 52 seconds left in the game, and you have to close the game out.
I have a theory, though. I think I've never seen a team take their starters out and have to put them back in. Usually what happens is when the team that's winning takes their starter out, the team that's losing does too. And it's kind of like, look, this game's over. Let's not get anyone hurt. Dan Campbell didn't take that approach. He got people hurt. He got Jeff Okudah hurt.
Off. Come on, Grant.
Yeah, no, he already said this. Like, he's trying to make a statement. We're not going to lose 41-17. We're going to fight because that's what I said we're going to do. So he kept his starters out there and they started playing, and the Niners let down because they took a lot of their starters out, and it was the right move. But Dan Campbell kind of went against the code and kept his guys out there, and people got hurt, and the game got real interesting. It's a theory, Max. It's a good question. I don't know. We may never know, but at least they won. God, can you imagine if they lost that freaking game? Whew! Oh man,
Can you imagine what people would say about Kyle Shanahan?
Oh my God, nationally,
about Jimmy. How could you miss that 3rd and 6 throw by half a foot? Or Debo, you fumbled.
The Mech says Jimmy throwing the ball away on 3rd before the half was new and good. He didn't do it before. This was good, Jimmy, but I wanted more Trey. Bad can come. Yeah, it seems to me that like Kyle has to do 2 things here. He has to win. He has to play Jimmy. He has to maintain the morale of the locker room that wants him to play. but you also have to find as many opportunities for Trey Lance to play quarterback as possible. There's two things you got to do. And this game was a freaking golden opportunity. I know it got weird at the end, but it's a golden opportunity.
I thought when it was 41-17, I thought we would see Trey Lance play the last 9 minutes of the game.
I thought so too. Golden opportunity, man. Because again, he can't go through the season throwing 30 passes and running 40 times. He can't have a Taysom Hill.
I didn't think of it even for that reason. If they're trying to get him more playing time, I just thought this was the game that you can just stick him in and have him run the normal offense, couple runs, have him play action, throw it, sprinkle in a couple runs with him. It would have been a nice time. But
when I was a kid and George Seifert was the coach and the Niners were up big, they would sit Jerry Rice and Steve Young, and Elvis Grbac would come in, and there would be Elvis Grbac time. And he used to play a lot. I remember because the Niners were really good. You could do this. I'm surprised teams don't do it anymore. The Niners used to do it all the time. And you would the dominant image I remember from as a kid is Steve Young wearing the hat. When you saw Steve Young and Jerry Rice wearing the hat, it was over. And they used to do it a lot. Preston, with how fast the Niners go through running backs, Trey Lance is going to be starting at running back by the end of the season. Oh, it's funny because it's true. So I saw someone tweet that Kyle Shanahan drafted 3 running backs this year, and the guy in the 6th round is the best one. Jay says, guys, I am hearing that Sherman thing is heating up. NFL will not weigh in and block him due to legal issues. Is that right, Jay?
Rappaport
what about Dre Kirkpatrick?
KNBR. He said that they've been in contact with Sherman, and there should be no fear about the NFL putting him on the commissioner's exempt list or anything like that.
Okay.
But they said Dre Kirkpatrick, so I think
Jose says, on that I don't expect Verrett to come back either way. Kyle and John need to finally take cornerback serious this offseason. Should had the money when Jimmy is cut. Nah, you need draft picks, baby. Draft picks.
You're not going to find corners unless you draft them in the top 20, 30.
I mean, unless you want to give out like $100 million contracts. I mean, they're expensive.
But even then, those guys, there's a reason they're walking. Like we've talked about it. The best corners in the NFL. Stephon Gilmore was picked in the top 10. Right. Jalen Ramsey was the 5th overall pick. Jair Alexander was 18th. Marlon Humphrey was 15th. These guys go because they're such elite athletes in the top 50 picks of the draft.
Robbie says, are we worried about Philly next week?
No.
Just dismissed.
No, I don't think they're a good football team. I don't think I like Jalen Hurts' skill set. I don't think he's good enough with the talent he has around them to beat the 49ers next week.
Okay, Robbie, I disagree with Vish here. I'm not saying that Philly's going to win, but I think this is going to be a much more difficult game. The Niners are only 3-point favorites. I think they were like 9-point favorites over the Lions.
But I also think that's a part of if you go look at NFC East teams because they're tough places to play and they get hyped up and all of that. People always say, Philly can pull off the upset. Philly beat Atlanta. Atlanta's a terrible football team.
Hold on. Philly has 2 good tight ends. They have a very dynamic running back. What?
One, I don't think Zach Ertz is that good anymore.
He's not that fast anymore, but he could catch 6-7 balls. I mean, he could get you some first downs. They have 2 pretty good tight ends. They have a very dynamic running back, and they got 2 first-round picks at wide receiver. Hold on. What really matters is Jalen Hurts. And although he may not be as good as what he played yesterday because the Falcons suck, he can really move. And I thought he made some throws in the run yesterday that were beautiful.
He can, but I think the quarterbacks that trouble the 49ers are ones like Kyler Murray, who are the fastest football player on the field. That's not Jalen Hurts. I think he's a 4.6 guy.
Quick,
and 2, I don't think Jalen Hurts is this magical, he gets out of the pocket and all of a sudden the whole field opens up because he's going to make throw after throw ridiculously. Even the way Carson Wentz did in last year's game, for example. I don't think
he doesn't have a super big arm, but I think he's pretty good, man. I'm just saying, I think he's pretty good. We'll see what happens. I think he is the kind of guy that gives the Niners trouble because let's say on first down, you got Eric Armstead rushing from the edge. I mean, he's just going to give it up. He's going to let Jalen Hurts get out of the pocket. From what I've seen from Jalen Hurts is he wants to get out. If he can take that little,
he does not function within the pocket well at this point.
No. But if you open up the front door, he'll take it and he'll run. He's tough. I think it's going to be a good game. I think the Niners are vulnerable to teams with wide receivers. Devontae Smith is good.
So you think they're vulnerable to 32 teams?
Well,
31.
30, including
I don't
think they're going to lose to Philly. But I think it's going to be a tough game. I think it's going to be pretty close. I don't think it's going to be 41-10 or 17 at any point, but I could be wrong. Anyway, good question. Anoop says, Niners need to move Mostert to wide receiver and protect his speed. Also, Kyle has zero game plan to close out games in the fourth quarter. Grant, ask him about this. Well, I thought that's why they drafted Banks and Sermon, to sort of have that, but I don't know, man. It usually helps to have players like that.
If only he had a game plan that included his star tight end, highest paid tight end in the NFL, being able to catch an onside kick.
Who finishes with more total TDs, Jimmy or Trey? That's the second time someone's asked that. I still think it's going to be Jimmy. Very weird. What's Kyle's trade value? That's a good question. I used to think that he was worth a couple of firsts. I don't know.
Too.
What do you think?
John Gruden went for a couple firsts.
That's what I'm saying. I think that's the great thing about Kyle. If you ever feel like it's not working out and you want to move on, you don't fire him. You trade him and get those Trey Lance picks back. Leo says Bosa throws Panay on his back, sacks the quarterback. Bosa records a TFL against Panay. Grant next day he can't be athletic OTs. Leo, thank you for your donation. Keneal says, Grant and Vish, y'all legends. Jimmy to WFT by the trade deadline. Is it possible the pump and dump is still going even now? I don't know,
I'm
man.
gonna be honest with you.
What do you think?
I was watching I watched like 11 games yesterday. WFT versus Chargers. One of the games I was watching. I have them all going on different devices, but Ryan Fitzpatrick did not look good even when he did play in that game. Jimmy G would be a fantastic upgrade for Washington. I just don't think the Niners will pull the trigger as long as this continues, where he's playing efficient and well, and they're winning. If they pull the trigger,
won't allow it.
The
locker room won't allow it. Dizza says, "What kind of wine did you get for your pot?" I just got back from Detroit this morning. I'm gonna get one tomorrow though, a real nice one, and I'll let you know. I gotta let Vish go, man. This is going on forever, and I'm hella far behind.
We can get through. I have to go, and maybe we can get through all the questions.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cloud, thank you. Well, no, we're moving. Jeffrey, is it true? Dre Kirkpatrick, it is true. Jeffrey, it is true. Super Bowl. Picking up Sherman is a must. We are thin at cornerback, and Sherman knows the defense. He is a competent corner, and maybe it's just me, but Norman is trash. There's a reason he didn't have a team a week out from the season. Sherman's better than Norman. I get why people say this. I really do think Sherman's better than Norman. But where is Sherman at right now? What shape is he in? Mentally, physically? I can't answer that. I don't know. And it's fair to say that he might not be fit to play. Maybe he shouldn't play. Maybe he doesn't want to play. I'm sure he would love to play. I'm just kidding. Bono says, Vish, you don't think Warner is a top 3 Niner? And Debo's fumble contributed to the potential comeback much more than Kittle's onside blunder. What happened first?
It was 40. It was first the Warner top 3 49er. We did a ranking I think in the off season, so you can go see my reasoning as to why on Grant's channel. In order the Debo fumble, I'm not even dismissing the Debo fumble. I think it was an important play in the game. But again, when you're up 41-17, you should not need a 3rd and 12 with 52 seconds to close the football game and away and make it 41-33. And if they recover the onside kick, the game is over then and there.
Jody says, Vish, thanks for always being objective with my beloved Niners. Question, is Justin playing better than Trey right now? Bears are about to start him.
What I saw in the preseason,
Trey's not playing
he looked better. If I want to be objective about both of them in the preseason, yes. I thought he looked good. Yeah, better.
Yeah. Rachel says, son of a Vish, you guys always make sense. Keep up the good job. Thank you. Andre Rico 85 says, we gave Jimmy too much cred, good and bad. Jimmy were on the field at the same time. That play where Jimmy survives and bounces off a sack and then grounds the ball like, dude. Oh, the intentional grounding. Yeah, I mean, look, I'll take a few bad Jimmy plays if they're not picks. Like, no one's 30 for 30 in a game, so that's okay. Sorry, I didn't click on it, but yeah.
I remember. I just remembered which play he was talking about. The sidearm casual flick that went pretty cool until you realize he threw it straight into the ground with no one around it.
True. Yeah. Hey, better than a pick. Better than throwing the ball to the linebacker.
It was honestly better than taking the 8-yard sack. Everything he did was good. I just don't think he knew where the running back was on the play to throw it into the ground to him.
Double B Studio says, just wanted to say what's up. Are you going to the Eagles game? No, not sure if this is one of your topics, but Shannon Sharp said Eagles won mainly because Falcons have a horrible defense. Niners should beat Philly. Fine. I'm not going to the Philly game. Everyone is staying in West Virginia for the week. That's expensive. I don't want to stay in West Virginia. I want to be with my wife for the week. And
I know
don't
I'm
want to fly
not
back across
Shannon
the state.
Sharp. I'm Vish Kumaran, but Vish Kumaran also said that the Eagles only won because the Falcons have zero talent on defense. Zero. Besides AJ Terrell, Brady Jarrett, Deion Jones.
I think the Eagles do have talent on offense. The question is, what's Hurts? Is he good? And
let me ask you this: Can you name 5 starters on the Falcons defense?
No. But I'm just gonna say that I like the talent on the Eagles offense. What? I've seen Devontae Smith play a lot. I've seen
I agree with that. I agree.
Miles Sanders play a lot.
I think they have talent on their offense.
Yeah.
I think they have potential to maybe be good one day. I don't believe in Sirianni. I
think they're the second best team. Why don't you like Sirianni?
Why should I believe in Sirianni?
Well, what do you know about Sirianni?
Good point. He just feels
like what I saw from their offense. I like what they showed. He feels like
hiring Zach Taylor.
All I know, okay, fair enough. But fair enough. We'll see what he does against a better defense. But I thought what he showed in this game was an aggressive zone read package paired up with screen game. Like the RPO element off it isn't necessarily slants and digs. They had a lot of plays where he would just throw screens to Devontae. They had a touchdown to Jalen Reagor off that. I mean,
no, I know what you're talking about.
I like the design of their offense.
I just don't believe in Philadelphia. And if the Niners happen to lose, I have a friend who's an Eagles fan. He's gonna blow up my phone. But also,
I don't think the Niners are
gonna have a tough day on Monday because I feel like Niners fans are gonna be coming.
I don't think the Niners are gonna lose. I'm just saying they can't keep quarterbacks in the pocket, and the way you beat Jalen Hurts is keep him in the pocket and make him execute. They're gonna have a lot of trouble with that. And once he's outside the pocket, he's a playmaker. I'm just saying they're gonna win. It's gonna be hard. They can't keep him in the pocket, Vish. Tobin says, what do you make of Mayoko's tweet of Iuke still need to learn to be a pro? Really disappointing. We're really heading into another doghouse. Teach him, Kyle. Wes. You teach him, Wes. Show him, Wes. Alex says, I don't think enough is being made about how much of a gamer Jimmy G is. I wish y'all would have kept that in mind in camp and preseason. I'm so tired of the Jimmy Garoppolo revival tour. I'm sorry. Like every game we have to be like, actually, it's Jimmy better than we gave him credit for. Man, is that what this season's about? Like they're going to go 10-7, but people are going to talk about Jimmy the whole time. Well, Jimmy had a good year. Okay. It's a transition. It just feels like a wasted year, man.
I don't know what about that game. I thought he played good, but I mean, people like Alex who feel very positive about Jimmy G. I mean, I'm positive about Jimmy G. I'm a fan about him. I just don't think he's a top 15 quarterback in the NFL. That's how top 15 quarterbacks in the NFL play with that game plan against that defense. So really, we shouldn't be talking anything about his performance because it should have been expected if you think as highly of him as you do.
If you watched Russell Wilson, if you watched Kyler Murray, Matthew Stafford, and Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't see what we're talking about. Like Jimmy was fine. You saw those other 3 guys, though, right? I mean, it's a big difference. No? It's a huge difference. I'm saying.
That guy, Matthew Stafford, Grant, got to tell you.
Stafford looked phenomenal. Kyler looked phenomenal. Russell Wilson looked like Russell freaking Wilson. So, good job, Jimmy. Jimmy golf clap. I like what you did. Jimmy golf clap. Good stuff. A stern golf. I give you 8 golf claps and a huzzah for week 1. Carlos says, I just feel Jimmy feels the heat from Lance. And now for the first time, he's actually playing to keep his job. Question is, will it be enough? Let's see how he looks. Let's see what he does like through September. He had one good game against the Lions. Are we worried about Green Bay with the game they just had? Yeah, that was good news for the Niners. That's what I'm saying. They could start 3-0.
I want to see what they do next week against Detroit. What if they go beat Detroit 41-17?
Ain't no way Niners are going to bully Hurts like Goff. Goff actually hung tough. I was making fun of him. He came back. Why didn't Sermon play?
I tweeted during the game, like, this is so apparent why Goff is terrible, blah blah blah. I'm just thinking in my head every single play Goff sucks, and then the final box score has people saying who just looked at the box score.
Yeah.
Dang, McVay
What a
hold Goff
player.
back?
Yeah, wow.
38 for 57?
We don't know why Sermon didn't play, but we're thinking curfew, or maybe he's just not good. We'll see. Because he's going to play now. Scott says, I figured with D Ford, Sampson, and others playing DN, Armstead would have moved to the interior D line where he's a better rusher. Why is he still at D end? Because he can't play D tackle on first down and a wide 9. He'll get moved around.
Yeah, but I felt like I didn't think they really got into a good mix on what their rotation was for their defensive line. I think we have to just see it go through the season and see what
Milf Hunter says, yeah, he's on the hunt. Says 44 juice getting all that money, 0 touches. Yeah, it's been like that for 5 years, and I don't get it. Offensive weapon. I brought it up in a press conference, and they're like, we got it. Wilson says, late to the show, thoughts on the run D? What happened? Kinlaw was hurt. And that happened to them week 1 last year, 2 years ago. It happened to. Bo knows says Vish doesn't know. Oh, but Vish does know. Thank you for the donation. Grant, tell the story of that kid that called you bro hella times.
What up, bro?
Who that was a couple weeks ago at the last preseason game against the Raiders. I was pulling up. He was a security guard helping people park, and I showed him my parking pass, and he goes, "Bro, I watch you every day on YouTube." And I was like, "Oh, it was nice to meet you, man." And he just kept going, "Bro, oh my god."
Wait, is he my age?
Yeah, he's like 16. Yeah.
Oh.
It was a little weird. It was cool. But
no
he just
way,
wouldn't
bro.
Stop.
No way, bro.
Oh my god. Jody, I think this is the last one. Told you live chat months ago against you haters, cornerbacks. We got them. Y'all scared because of Witherspoon. 41 points, most week 1, Scorpion King. Hold on. It was such a good. I'm going to read it again. Told you live chat months ago against you haters, cornerbacks. We got them. Y'all scared because of Witherspoon. 41 points, most week 1, Scorpion King. I feel you, man.
I didn't feel that. I didn't get it.
I don't really understand it, but I feel it. All right. That's the show. It's the longest Mondays with Vish of all time. Vish, thank you very much.
We did one for like an hour and 50.
Did we?
Yeah.
There were other things we were going to talk about. Why don't we do this real quick? Send us out thoughts on D'Amico Ryans, and then we'll go.
Obviously, you can't really judge him off of one game, but I thought it was interesting. The one thing, and I haven't seen the film yet. I'll go back and watch it. Game Pass is supposed to provide that luxury for us again.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Hopefully we do get it, because otherwise there's no reason to pay for Game Pass. But right. What I wanted to say was it looked to me like the Niners played a ton of single high. And I think one of the biggest things, and you and I have actually done this on a Mondays with Vish, we talked about how the trend of the NFL, and one of the things I mentioned with the trend is I think split safety coverage is going to become the normal. And the single high defenses, the Seattle scheme defenses, the ones that can remain playing the Seattle front, actually they become heavy quarters teams. So they play match quarters, they play split safety quarters. And
again, real quick, for laymen out there that are a little lost, the reason single high safety stuff became so in vogue 10 years ago is it was a good way to stop the run. You get 8 men in the box.
Fronts.
8 men in the box, end of story. Now you're more concerned with stopping the pass and stopping. You almost want teams to run the ball. Yeah. So you get that 7-man front. If with 2 safeties, it's way harder to throw deep. You pretty much force checkdowns. Yeah.
Vic Fangio's scheme, Brandon Staley's scheme, the scheme that's in craze right now. Everybody says best defensive scheme. They play split safety coverage. And Brandon Staley, if you want me to break down the simplest form of what his defense is and why it was successful last year, they did not care about stopping the run. They played split safety coverage, and they tried to take away the pass. And then, of course, they stopped the run on.
Because if your entire offense is running the ball and quick passes, it's not explosive.
Yeah.
And you're going to make mistakes. You'll have holding penalties, drops, interceptions, sacks. We have Aaron Donald. Yeah,
they're going to stop the pass.
Unless you have Tom Brady.
And you're going to Robert Saleh, for example, last season, if you go look at the Niners coverage splits, they were not a cover 3 team anymore. They didn't play the match cover 3 zone that made Seattle famous. They played quarters, they played 2-man, and they played cover 6, quarter, half.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was interesting because I thought they would continue in that split safety trend. And then throughout the preseason, we saw just exclusively single high safety looks from D'Amico Ryans, and with the starters, Talanoa Hufanga would be starting safety. And people said he was going to be more aggressive. He was going to blitz more. I saw, I think, like 2 or 3 creative blitzes, one that brought K'Wan Williams and all of that. But I didn't think he did anything with their fronts that put pressure on the Lions' offensive line. I thought they played a lot of single high and played a little bit too much man coverage, especially with the personnel they had. I mean, a lot of people got on Tart for the touchdown he gave up to Hawkinson. And, maybe I think Tart is still not 100% there, and I think a healthy Tart might have been able to make a play on that. But I also think it's a bad spot for a strong safety, 10 yards off the ball, trying to cover a top 5 tight end running an out, and he has time to throw the ball in man coverage. I think it's a tough assignment for any safety. I don't know how many safeties do make a play on the football, because it was also a really nice throw from Goff. But in general, I thought they played I thought it was a little bit of a different defense than what I expected. I thought it was going to be more closer and similar to Salah's philosophies than what I saw. And obviously it's been just one game, but I'm interested to see how it holds up in the long run, because I do anticipate if they play the defense or scheme and the way I think they played it yesterday. I mean, of course, I'm going to go back and watch it and make sure. But if they do that, I do think there are some struggles that will come down the road, especially against the teams in their division, because I do think the teams in their division do a real good job matching up against what the Niners presented on defense yesterday.
Gavin Upright Cartwright says, has McGlinchey improved, or is he still the same old McFlappy?
He had a good game run blocking.
He had a good game run blocking. The extra weight and strength should definitely help in run blocking. But they were winning the whole game. I think he's going to look good if he's winning. When he's going to struggle is when they're down and they got to throw every time, and everyone knows it. And that's not his game. And it's kind of weird to not have an offensive tackle who can do that in 2021, considering that's a very big part of football.
But that's not the 49ers game.
Not with the nine, and they drafted him knowing what he was, and they're a throwback offense anyway. So that's the answer to that. He was an asset in this game, no question about it. Bish, I gotta go write something really interesting about Dre Kirkpatrick. Thank you very much, everyone. Very generous of you. Thanks everyone for watching. I'm exhausted. I don't know what time zone I'm on. What?
I will be streaming again actually quite shortly. 7:30 Central Time, 5:30 Pacific. We will be streaming, breaking down week 1. We'll have one Niners topic, but we'll mostly be talking about a few other teams. If you're interested, Blake and Vish Sports, please tune in a couple hours from now, 7:30 Central, 5:30 Pacific.
Definitely tune into that. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. I will see you guys tomorrow.